understanding what evidence can be relied upon under legal and administrative rules is a foundational step in any workplace investigation. It defines the boundary between information that can legitimately support a finding and information that, while interesting, may not carry sufficient weight. In practice, these rules operate within a framework that balances fairness with practicality. Workplace investigations are generally more flexible than criminal proceedings, but they still must produce outcomes that are competent, reasoned, and defensible, especially when reviewed by arbitrators, tribunals, or courts. At the core of this framework are what can be described as the three pillars of relied-upon evidence. First is competence, which speaks to whether the evidence is legally acceptable and reliable. This includes considerations such as how the evidence was obtained, whether it comes from a trustworthy source, and whether it can properly be used in a formal decision-making process. Evidence that is compromised in its collection or source may lose its value, even if it appears persuasive on the surface. Second is relevancy. Evidence must have a clear connection to the matters being investigated. In simple terms, it must help answer the question, does this information make a fact more or less likely to be true? If it does not move the analysis forward in a meaningful way, it carries little investigative value. Third is materiality. Even relevant information may not be material unless it has the potential to influence the outcome of the case. Material evidence is the kind that actually matters in deciding what likely happened, as opposed to background detail that has little impact on the final determination. Within these principles, evidence is often understood as existing in a hierarchy of reliability, based on its strength and how much interpretation it requires. At the top are admissions, which are generally considered the strongest form of evidence. A clear and properly obtained admission from a respondent can, in many cases, be sufficient on its own to support disciplinary action. In workplace settings, such admissions often carry more weight than conflicting evidence because they come directly from the individual involved. Next is direct evidence, such as eyewitness testimony or clear video footage. This type of evidence, if credible, directly establishes what happened without requiring inference. Closely related is corroborative evidence, which includes objective records like emails, chat logs, badge swipe data, or system logs. These records do not usually tell the whole story on their own, but they provide strong external anchors that can confirm or challenge human accounts. Below that is circumstantial evidence, which requires inference. While it is indirect, it can still be highly persuasive when multiple pieces align. In fact, several smaller items of circumstantial evidence, what some describe as grains of sand, can collectively build a strong and reliable picture of events. At the lowest level is hearsay, or secondhand information. Although hearsay is often permitted in administrative settings, such as workplace investigations or arbitration hearings, it is generally given less weight because the original source is not available for questioning or testing. These categories are guided by several key legal and administrative rules. One is the best evidence rule, which holds that the original version of a document or record is generally preferred over copies or summaries. This principle is intended to preserve accuracy and reduce the risk of distortion. Another is the reality that most administrative venues apply relaxed rules of admissibility. This means that while a wide range of evidence may be allowed, decision-makers are still required to assess the quality, reliability, and source of that evidence when determining how much weight to give it. Modern approaches also emphasize a totality of the circumstances test, which means evidence is not evaluated in isolation. Instead, it is assessed as part of the full context of the case, allowing for a more holistic and realistic assessment of what likely occurred. In some frameworks, it is also recognized that documents and records, while powerful, are not self-explanatory facts. They are representations of events, which often require witness testimony or authentication to properly interpret their meaning and context. Finally, it is equally important to recognize what evidence should not be relied upon or should be treated with caution. This includes unauthenticated digital data, which may be altered or incomplete without proper verification methods such as metadata or hash validation. It also includes pure opinion evidence, where personal beliefs or character judgments are not directly relevant to whether a specific event occurred. In addition, evidence obtained improperly or without due process may be excluded or given little weight if its collection undermines fairness or legality. Taken together, these principles ensure that workplace investigations do not rely on assumptions or untested information. Instead, they create a structured way to evaluate what evidence can truly be relied upon, so that final findings are not only logical, but also capable of withstanding external scrutiny.